first committee meeting for the Citizens Advisory Committee. Ms. Payne is the normal chair for this meeting. Unfortunately, she had a death in the family, so I'm going to do my best to fill her shoes. But sending her, love and sympathy. So I think just like a quick little history on this. Last year, I believe it was, there was a mandatory update which made us aware of the Citizens Advisory Committee that sort of brought into fruition the fact that this is something we can have. And I know that we all have felt that it's really important to engage our community members. And this is a way that we are able to do this. We are starting from scratch with this. So I had sent out earlier just some ideas about what other districts have done so that ultimately we could sort of today create a process that we want to follow. We can speak to Ms. Payne to make sure she's on board with that. I do have the Citizens Advisory Committee policy up, which I'll just summarize. I don't have to read it verbatim, but essentially it's a committee to provide input to the board administration from the community for funded programs as the board sees fit and the law requires. The board may appoint members of the community who are able and interested in the subject and concerned about schools, and who represent a wide range of interests, of community interests and backgrounds. Chairperson, one or more board members, school staff members. And then the idea is to define the Citizens Advisory Committee assignment in writing, set a date. It mentioned establishing a budget. I don't think that's something we're going to really look at for right now, at least. And also just that the Citizens Advisory Committee in itself doesn't reduce the responsibility of the board. And ultimately, what we were sort of using this for is to get a pulse from various community members on certain items and hopefully to help us further engage in the community. So that's just sort of that in a nutshell. So I guess before I talk, because we all know I'll just keep doing that, I'll open it up to see like what are objectives and goals that you guys would like to see from this committee.
So I'm very excited about this committee. I know it's something that we have been trying to talk about for a while. And I think it's a great way to, like you said, bring the community in to have discussions. I think I was talking to Ms. Monroe about the strategic planning meeting about this. It's something that I feel very strongly about is that we need the community to trust us. We need to regain the public trust, and we need for the community to feel like they have a say. Again, that phrase buy-in, and that, we are here to listen to what their concerns are or what their ideas are. And I feel like this is a really great, this can be potentially a great forum for something like that to happen if we can get, different representatives from different parts of the community to come, and, speak with us and, bring ideas, and we can kind of, I feel like it's almost just like a discussion, like to talk to us. I feel like that will speak volume, because then what will happen is the, the members that would be selected here, that's one thing that we'd have to talk about, is setting a selection process of, how are we going to have the community, like, pick the community members that are going to come here. They can go back to, their respective communities to say, like, if you didn't get a chance to watch it, at this meeting, we talked about, this, and this is what we're gonna do, this is the plan, or some, just kind of gives them more of a stake in what's happening, especially if, having to go out for a vote. We really need the support.
And this would be a monthly meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mr. Crew, welcome to your first committee meeting. Well, sort of.
Right. I think the engaging the community is like a really good thing, because I know I spoke to a lot of residents in the last 3 months, and a lot of it was communication or lack of communication in certain aspects, or not knowing what's going on or how it's going on. And I think engaging the community and bringing members in from the community will help get the word out, so there's not such a backlog or anything, or more people will be aware of what we're doing as a school district, where a lot of people are up in the air, they don't know, a lot of parents work and, they come home and ask their kids how school today, and it was great, and that's it. But we also got a lot of parents that wanted to engage in different aspects for education or sport or clubs or different aspects in the community. And I think bringing people from the outside in to talk with us will help us learn what the community is really looking for and help us fulfill the needs of them. Are we gonna put like a post out for people to join it?
Well,
Like, are
that's
we
the-
gonna,
Right.
That's what we have to
discuss as a
decide,
committee, yeah.
what
should we
should
maybe
happen.
put something on a district website that maybe we're looking for, I would say like 10 to 15 people, you think?
So,
Is that too many? I mean, we
I-
have 40
right.
something thousand residents, so.
so when I,
I have a thought.
yes.
So when we had discussed this at strategic planning, excuse me, I immediately thought of an example. It was right about last year at this time, we had a gentleman come in from the community, no affiliation with the district. In fact, I believe his children are about to age out of the district. But he was a volunteer, he was well accomplished in the private sector, volunteer computer science and robotics coach in another town, despite living in Monroe. And he told us about the experience and how these kids are putting a tremendous amount of hours doing these things in addition to their schoolwork, and wanted to know if there was an opportunity for it to bring it to Monroe. So we sat and, it's amazing what you think you know that you don't, right? And we were learning about the program and, an hour-long conversation later with him and his son, who he brought with him. We figured out a way that we could make it work, and it started off small as a summer program. Now it evolved into something. This is the Lego League that we're talking about. So that was an example of tapping into a resource that benefited learning that we didn't know otherwise existed. Now this is specifically content, curriculum instruction. I don't, but the reason why I bring this up is, would your objective to be all encompassing? So even operational, or are you speaking more curricularly, as far as like consultation and collaboration maybe?
Anything and everything.
Yeah.
Whatever people's concerns are in the community and
So then,
working to try to fulfill, what they're looking for. And I mean, some things, of course, are gonna be out of reach. And some things may be a little off the wall, but at least if we hear, enough about certain things going on or certain programs or, like Zach just said, we found out something that really he didn't know, and look the way it's taken off, like things like that. I
you
think
get caught in your own echo.
more engaging in the community, I think is a good thing. And I mean, I don't know if it's possible, but if we did like a community engagement meeting and we have people, and then we had people from the community come, would we be able to do a question and answer thing, since it's not really like a committee? It's more of a, I don't know if that's something, because it's not really gonna be a committee, it's gonna be more of a citizens advisory group, and if citizens come and wanna maybe make an appointment, come guest speak or something, like if we have a committee and then somebody wants to, they could be a teacher in South Jersey and live in Monroe, or a principal in North Jersey and live in Monroe, and their school is doing something that he thinks might benefit us, our school. Like if they made an appointment, say, hey, I want to come talk to your committee and and let us know the topic.
So I
And
think
then,
that there's definitely the opportunity for that to happen, but I think before we get there, like, not that this is necessarily exactly what we have to do, but from what I've seen, the committee is generally the same 15 community members, along with the people in this room that meet monthly. So it wouldn't be like new residents coming to ask questions. It would be, the same people. And then obviously, if there's somebody who has a specific concern, whether it's this committee or another committee, they're obviously always welcome to come and speak on that. But I think what we sort of really want to figure out is, how are we determining the community members that would be a part of this committee? I think that, like this, I had pulled up a few like different options of ideas, but do we want it to be, like, it should be everyone should live in Monroe? Do we
Yes.
want to leave it only to people that are 18 and older? I love the idea of having our student board reps here, if that's an option, or, that we don't have to even consider them as like, applying for the committee, we can just invite them. But do we want to allow for other students to apply if they wanted to? And then just sort of making sure that we have like different diversity demographically, geographically.
I saw in one of the documents you sent that they do a representative from each ward in the town. That was one structure in one of the documents you sent.
So
We should probably do it by grade too, like maybe a couple elementary parents, a couple middle school parents,
Or by
high school parents, so we don't, we spread it out, so.
you would
Yeah,
assemble a
everybody.
static, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You would establish like a static committee as, with, of people that you would, select, as opposed to like, let's say, curriculum committee, if we're talking about finance, I may bring in Mr. Pierce, or if we're talking about health, I may bring in Mr. Field. You're talking just the same people every time, so you could have working, ongoing dialogue.
Right.
Got it. Well, that would be pretty easy to do. You could build it out of the, advocacy page, or or you could build it where it's like, hey, this is what our objectives are. If you're interested, please submit your information by this date. And then we would be able to publish a report to you guys to, balance it out, like you had said, categorically or whatever.
Categorically, just-
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Little
You could do it
representation.
simple as a Google form, or you could
Yeah.
dress it up, make it a little more official,
Mhm.
once you guys have your objectives, codified. That's pretty easy to do. And you could set it, so, you could make it like a standard part of, with either the advocacy page, you could build it off that, or you could make it a part of the board page where you could kind of produce minutes and updates and things like that, depending on how detailed you want it to be.
Yeah.
So I guess to include on that application, we would want, and I can like send this later, but like name, address, phone number, email address. And then maybe like a brief statement of why they want to be a part of the committee, because we never know what we're gonna end up with, right? If we have 20 parents from Mill Lake, we need to put, do we want to make it subjective where we review this to determine who we feel like would be the best fit for the committee, or do we want to do it as a lottery system?
Well,
It shouldn't just be parents,
and
it
it-
could be any community.
and it shouldn't just, I don't know that it should be a lottery either, because you want to make sure you have a varied stake
Mhm.
in the community. So you don't want your lottery to just wind up being all, one
No,
given
That's
area.
what I mean, if you had, say, 2 parents from elementary, 2 middle, 2 high school, you have a couple seniors that want to be involved. Like you said, if we want to put maybe 2 students, student reps, or, and break it up so we could find out what
Right.
the feel is in the school along with what the community is looking for. And
I should have been clearer. Because we wanted to get that diversity and make sure that we're getting each, but like knowing like we wanted 2 parents from each school, right? And then we wanted to pick, I don't know, there's, Mr. Riley, you'll probably know the answer. How many active adult communities, which are now, I think, called something else?
No, I think you're right, active adult, because I think I was corrected to call them an active. community. But
I
it could be
think
some
there might be too
retirement,
many
but
to pick one.
my mother would say she still works.
Yes.
But I worry about this because I've fallen into this pitfall of making sure that everyone would, in adult communities would know to access the online form, to make sure that they could participate. We ran into a similar problem the first year we ran the summer program, not a problem, but it was a challenge because it was free. And anyone could sign up and we couldn't take everything.
Right.
So then we got into discussion, well, we want to make sure Woodland's represented and Applegarth, and it can't just be boys. And sometimes when you do a lottery randomized, it can turn into that, especially in a diverse town like this. I don't know if there's a perfect solution, but there should be, my suggestion, because of what you're looking to get out of the committee, there probably should be some sort of qualifying statement.
Yeah,
But then who's gonna, you're probably gonna have to review it all.
yeah.
And also, I don't think it should just be open to parents. I
Nope.
think it should be people, anyone.
Like I said,
And
seniors.
like, it would go
The business owners and stuff. and-
business owners and, architects, if they wanna, on the board.
Well, I think we should try to have like some of each demographic. Like, I do think we should have parents, but I think we should have adults that maybe aren't seniors that are not parents if they're interested, right? Because we all pay taxes, right? And we should have seniors who are interested. And what I think will be really great is the people on this committee then can also feedback information from the district
To their
to
community
their
for all.
communities, to the people that they work with.
Well, and I think that brings me back to my original question was, with the committee itself, are we looking for entire district consultation? So, or are we limiting to curricular topics? So if that's the case, when we say, hey, we're looking for contributions and collaboration from everyone from, kindergarten experts to, people that have expertise in securing shared service, agreements. So that would be, make that clear, because I would wonder if you just have, parents that want to get more involved, parents that want to get their hand on curriculum, but I think is the desire of the committee to be beyond that?
I think it's beyond that. Like, I don't think it should be like something where personnel, where someone's like coming and saying, I don't like this teacher, or I don't like that.
Or if
you
you
know,
want
but
to
I
talk about
think,
that
like,
full time.
right, I
Yeah.
think that it's more than just curricular, right? So it's, I don't know exactly what, Dr. Shanley does with her student,
Yeah.
advisory committee, but talking about everything that affects the school district, it could be about how can we, get the information out more about athletics, or let's discuss what we're doing for lunch or transportation. I think it's more than just
Like an
curricular.
agenda-driven bagels with the board.
Yes.
Basically,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense, because now you've got, that brings an appeal to casting a wider net.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
So I didn't have a ton of time to get through the resources you sent late this afternoon. But one of the schools districts that you sent, they have agendas and minutes. So it's a good way to not actually being present in the meeting itself to see what the plan was. And then the minutes represent what happened. So in glancing through, it seems like this district here had a group of 10 to 12 to 15 people, a static group. They had a fixed task as well as like a monthly presentation. So the fixed task in this district, and it sounds like they were looking to overhaul their website. So in September meeting, this community representation, they each had a part of the website when they went home to dig into and bring back feedback about elements of this. That was one slice of the agenda. Then they had an embedded, this one happened to be a pupil personnel related presentation about the IEP process and the process of going through the classification process. So you have a targeted, structured goal, right? So clearly they were looking to address this element of technology, because they had the technology director there as well to kind of walk through that first meeting. Here's our website. Here's how you navigate it. This is where our resources are. But it gave a formal, structured opportunity for non-traditional, it appears to be non-traditional community members to give their lens,
Yeah.
So the takeaway from that is it doesn't seem to be a free-for-all type meeting. This district had a structured goal or
That's right.
task or something related to whether it's broader technology, I haven't figured it out yet, but this first meeting was, here's our technology director, here's our website. Everybody has a task, homework when you leave this meeting. And then they cycled through meeting after meeting, tweaking, making changes, because they would take some of the feedback, they'd make the tweaks, they'd come back the next week or the next month with other information the community members would. So it's like a balance of what would be the goal, what would be that
Right.
structured task, and then supplement with kind of an informational piece. Like some of these were informational. It's not about the overhaul piece, but maybe the community at large with special programs being a massive piece of our budget. Maybe it's an opportunity to get a diverse group with their focused attention on some of our special programs, which we know have, a large expenditure too. So in terms of structure of the meeting, I think there definitely would need to be some sort of focused goal, right? And it could be a bigger goal that's chunked into smaller tasks. And then there would be some sort of thematic monthly presentation that would provide general information. So these community members could then potentially share out to their constituents. I don't know if that's, again.
That was kind of what I had envisioned occurring. So that's why as a board and as a district, you refine your goals and things like that, I imagine that the functioning of the committee would spin off of that, right? And if we say, full day, whatever, let's just throw that out there. You know, we say that, all right, so now we're gonna set an advisory committee that lines up with ways we can actualize that goal.
I think coming off the strategic plan, like the
The timing.
timing of this can work out very well, because with our strategic planning meeting coming up, the third one, the final one, in a couple of weeks, I feel like we can take that and use that to our advantage for this committee.
Nice way to operationalize the plan, which was created in a sense by, in a macro version of the committee, I believe you're trying to describe. When you have multiple stakeholders, but you know, where it would differ, if I understand correctly, so please correct me wrong. Whereas that anyone can come to the strategic planning meeting, these working meetings, we would set our attendance list based on, a group that you guys would identify based on whatever criteria. And then we would work towards these predetermined goals. And like Dr. Lehman said, I like the idea. You can contextualize it with a presentation. So if we're working on operations, maybe that would not be an opportunity to show how an elementary schedule works currently and some of the challenges and benefits. And then because that's something else that popped up in the strategic plan. too.
Yeah, and definitely engaging the community in kindergarten, full day kindergarten, and stuff like that would be a plus, that we could get a feel on.
So I think.
To look at different ways, avenues to make it happen.
So I think if there's a solicitation for volunteers, having the year-long either goals or objectives would really focus who your interested community members would be, as opposed to a general, like, oh, sure, I'll do it, but I don't know what to expect. If there was the goal of whatever, that might trigger that gentleman you spoke about earlier.
Yep.
To say, hey, I could bring this to us. And then it would also give you,
Well,
if there's an application
To
fee.
use that analogy, one of the challenges we had was how to take that particular Lego program and turn it into a year-round thing. Whereas had we on, he had to go back to work, unfortunately, but, we had ongoing, that's something that could spin out of that, over a period of time.
So just looking at the results from the first strategic planning committee, the themes, number one by far was full day kindergarten, which, I think we all know, and it's a matter of how do we get it to come to fruition, and working towards solutions, figure out the challenges, figure out there's a way to overcome those challenges. The next one, that was 66, looking at these common themes. The next one was staffing issues, like, students to staff ratios, especially like to counselors, as well as addressing the teacher shortage. And then there was facilities, overcrowding, space limitations, followed then by funding. And then the fifth one was, parent community business engagement. How do we further reach out to our community? And, my opinion is we do a really good job of communicating with the people who want to come to us for the information. I think what I'd really like to figure out is how do we get that information out to the people who don't necessarily
So
come to
you
the
need
website.
visitors and things like that.
But Kate, what we could do is take what you said
Mhm.
and make that our goals for
Right.
the first year, that this is what, the staffing,
Right,
the
Yeah.
kindergarten, all the, like, the things you just said, we could put that out there, like, this is what we want to work on with the citizen engagement committee, and we're looking for the people to look at these things, and I would just take those are the main things that parents complain about the
right.
last 3 months, so.
I think the first step though is creating a document, explaining what the role is, setting up some meeting dates.
Yeah.
Some timelines for application, what we want on the application. I mean, we don't have anything to work on.
But if
Like,
if parents know what we're looking
Yeah,
the input on,
right.
then we'll get people involved in that kind of input.
So basically there'd be like a cover page with, here are the things that we are
Here are our
looking
goals.
to address, like
Here are our
including
goals
but
to
not
address it.
limited
You're on the
to.
citizens action group, and, we're looking for,
Mhm.
volunteers.
Mhm.
Well, this may time out nicely, because, so the next step, our last public, strategic planning meeting is coming up next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Dr. Lehman, correct me if I'm wrong, because we were talking about this before. We're refining now, so Ms. Reef has already sent us the draft and we're about to push it out. And basically it's taking the feedback and the outcomes from the first two sessions, and now the job in the next meeting is to refine it. into actionable visions. And, you know, that will likely direct probably some of the focus of what this committee would take. It's gonna be the same things you just mentioned, it's just now we're just gonna hone it down a little bit, I would imagine. And then we kick it back to admin to operationalize it.
So can I offer some suggestions
Please.
about pacing?
Yeah.
So we talk about operationalizing this committee. So I would think your themes would emerge, like you mentioned, from the strategic plan. The strategic plan, the goal would be to present that most likely in the September board meeting.
Okay.
We will have the May 15th meeting. She usually takes a solid 3 weeks to get us any feedback. So we get that feedback, early to mid-June. The plan all along has been for the admin team to take, the result of that meeting, and like, Mr. Marl just said, we merge that into the action steps, right? The action plan and the outcomes, expected outcomes. That would take us the summer, and the presentation in September is the common goals and themes with the action plan. So that's where you guys would establish your potential goals, right? Between now and then, maybe this committee's goal is to define your structure. If there is some sort of solicitation application process, defining that process, right? The mechanism to collect those names, like you have to think logistically how to get the group that you want in place, in addition to what you want the group to do. So what you want the group to do will come into play in September, right? And in October, and August and September. So until then, you have time almost to get yourself squared away as a committee to be ready to put out that information.
And that would help.
That would populate your agenda for the next couple months. And then it gives the district time to get the 5-year plan in place in collaboration with you guys in September. Then you push it out and say, whatever this looks like, and it may not be as specific as, a full day K steering committee, right? Maybe that is embedded in a broader goal of the committee, or maybe that's a year 2 community action. Who knows? But I would not want to reach for a goal right now, because I almost feel like that's answering questions in the strategic plan, which should be a natural evolving community.
Oh,
So we have that in
Get the
place already.
strategic plan done, and then once we know what the goals are,
Right.
and then we roll it into the citizen.
And that's a nice,
Get
it's a nice foundational.
get input from the community on what we already plan on doing for your goals, and
Right.
And
just
also-
gotta make sure that, we're all on the same page with that,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of community members that are asking for certain things, and of course, some can't do, some can do. We have to find ways to stay within the budget and do what we need to do to make it all work.
And if I'm not so when we got the strategic planning results last time, it was like numbered, right? So we knew like what areas were the highest focus for, the community. Is that gonna be similar? It should be similar?
She summarizes all the summary pages you guys created, and then what the numbers represent are how many dots,
Yeah.
right? So that's, everyone look at everyone else's
Yeah.
pages, and you get one dot next to what
Yeah.
you guys think are, so there will be some numbers
Okay.
associated with that. So you'll see frequencies, basically it's frequency,
Yeah.
is what it is.
So just to clarify, next week, we'll probably see what those top goals are, and then it's more about how to put them into an actionable plan after that. But if we wanted to, next month, maybe work on formatting the application and the cover letter with the information we get next week from that, but then
So you're
waiting until
behind because
September.
you need the final information from the third meeting. Like the third meeting is, so
Right.
what you're getting at the third meeting is the results from meeting number 2.
Right,
So we need to wait ultimately to get the final results from
From
meeting number 3 before we can.
When is that?
So,
Well, meeting number 3 is next week, but
15th.
it takes about like 3 weeks, you said, for,
After that.
Right.
yeah, for Patty to get all
So-
of the results in.
it's possible that we would have them before the June committee meeting.
Not, probably not.
think
Maybe
about
July.
it, it was, what are our strengths and our areas for growth in meeting 1? And reach for the sky, right? It was like no limits. So then she tabulated that and said, based on those tabulations, here are the themes. They're not necessarily the end game themes. Those are the themes from our Reach from the Sky piece. Then that information was put into action, and she now came out with, again, another set of common themes, she's calling it. But the ultimate purpose of the strategic action plan is to funnel it into goals, right? So the themes would drive the goals. So this next coming meeting, instead of being randomly grouped, you'll be able to work in an area that you're interested in or that you want to work in, and it's based off of the next level set of themes that she's identified from the work that the groups have been doing.
When will we know the end result?
The end result of us presenting the strategic plan is August, September.
But we'll know before the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly bring it to one of the committees.
You
Yep.
know what I mean? Just so if we get everything in play, and then maybe in August roll out, like if we know it's September, this is gonna be presented. And maybe August, we could roll out to the community that, you know, these are what the group is looking to accomplish. Some of the goals, and, you know, if you're interested, these are the topics that we're gonna be working on.
Yep.
This way we'll know then what they are, and then, otherwise, if we wait till September, then by the time we put it
Right.
out,
Yep.
it's October, and then by the time we pick people, it's Christmas, like,
Yeah,
I think
That's a good
that we should know right away, at least, not everything, but just maybe a couple of the top things.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you'll
And
get,
then we could get it out. I would like to have it to the public, either the July 31st meeting
Right.
or the following meeting, like, just to roll out, because then it's gonna take its time
yeah.
to get the information in, to roll.
so the results of the third strategic planning piece will be put out in June.
June.
Right.
Yep. So and that will be your goal areas,
Yep.
themes. That may be
Okay, so-
enough for you
Right.
to,
Yeah, so maybe
It's the
July, the meeting.
By July, we should be able to
31st,
hash out what
We
the
should be able to
goals
hash
are for
out
the committee, and then
to
in
ask
August,
people
roll it
if
out.
they wanna
and
be involved.
Start getting people, right?
I suppose fine tune it.
Yeah.
I think for
afterwards.
next month's agenda, we should come prepared to discuss how we're gonna select, or the application process.
How many
Because
people?
if we hammer that out
Well,
first,
but you really won't know your application process until you know what the interest is that people are gonna want to be involved with.
I think it's a matter of like, how do we get the application out and what do we put on the application and not necessarily how do we select.
But once we know the goals, you
no,
can
I'm
just
talking
put
about
right
like,
on the
what does the
application
form
that
look like? What is
if
the
you're interested in the Citizens Advisory Group, this is what we're working on. So people aren't blinded and they'll be calling us all up going, hey, well, if I join this, you know, what are we doing? No, we need to know what we're doing before we send it out. So then people can see what we're looking for and then respond back. And then at that point, it'll just be a matter of having to pick certain people from certain areas.
Well, that's what we're talking about, like creating the app, the application, like your name, address,
Address.
you know. What do you do for a living? I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
We gotta be careful on that too, so.
Or what is your,
Just Monroe
Interest
resident,
level,
you know,
yeah.
what are,
right, parent, resident, specialty, area specialty maybe.
but I think it should be like a broad for the whole community, so we
Mm-hmm.
can get all community involved.
And I wonder if there's a way for us to put it out in, you know, the different active adult community newsletter.
Well, that was my
Right,
initial
so
thought.
get out.
Our limitation
You
could
could,
be,
you could put it on a website, and there's enough people that'll spread the word. I mean, these communities have one paper that does every single community. There's ways to get in touch with one person and they'll spread it throughout the town. You could even get it, we could even probably get the township to put it on their page going out. You know what I mean? They send out that monthly page to all residents of what's going on in Monroe.
Mhm.
And I'm sure if we're doing something like that, that the mayor and council will be happy to let us, like, there's tons of ways to get the word out. I mean, that to me is the easy part. It's gonna be picking the people, it's gonna be the
Right.
hard part.
My biggest thing is I don't want someone, I mean, ultimately, you're always gonna have someone who's gonna say, I never got this, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah, yeah.
we have so many people in our town, but I want to minimize that as much as we can. I know like there are some active adult communities that have newsletters that, you know, there's some that have a Board of Ed liaison that writes like an article about the board. You know, whereas I think there's others that don't have that.
No, but they all get the township stuff.
Right.
They all get the township.
You know, I
They
like
may
that
not get
idea.
the board ed
of
stuff,
townships
but they
advertising.
all get the township stuff, so I'm sure the township will be willing if we want to put something out there. And then we send it to all the other avenues. I mean,
Right.
I think
That's a good idea.
advertising is gonna be the easy part. It's
Mhm.
more of like Carmen said, coming up with an idea of, you know, the group of people we want, and then we have to come to a number. What are we gonna look? I mean, we say 10 people and 200 people put in for it.
Well,
You
that's
know what I
gonna
mean?
be,
That's
here,
that's
that's
when,
the hard part, but I
that's
feel
what
like
I
you,
mean.
you also can't have, you can't have too many,
How many public people from the public do you think?
well, we have to be, that's what we have to decide, right? What number
structure.
would be a good representative, you know, representative of the demographic of Monroe, like, clearly 5 is not enough, but
Maybe
12?
12.
like, I feel like we have to look and see, one of the things that we have to look at when we get that data is where are they from? Like, I think it's important to know
The
ward, I think we want them to put their ward on there.
Mhm.
And then we can kind of see like
Mhm.
like where everyone is
I mean,
located and try to
We can
pick.
put on there
We
like,
don't wanna pick
what are your
everyone from
interests,
one
what are
board,
your,
we're gonna spread it out.
you know, what's your field? Do you have a specialized field?
Mhm.
Put in there, like, is there
Like
any
a
specialized
specialty.
training or whatever you have to?
Mhm.
I'm sure in the senior community, you get a lot of, retired teachers or
Engineers.
some administrators or some engineers, like people that are willing to come in
Mhm.
and do it. So I think that you shouldn't, I don't know, I think you should have at least 12, 15
Yeah,
people.
right, I would say 12 to 15, I feel like is a good,
Is a good number because then you could, you can still manage it and it gets a lot more of the word out because you have people from
Yeah.
different aspects.
The other things to think about, do we want to just limit it to our student board members? Do we want to open it up as an opportunity for other high school students that might be interested? And then as well as, do we want to include our teaching staff on there? Or do we want to limit it to citizens of Monroe because it is a citizens advisory committee? And if they are a teacher in our town or not in our town, then that's a bonus, but those were the other thoughts I had.
I don't know if I would limit it to what students, I mean, first I would do the adults first. I wouldn't even think about students at first.
So you would, like, you would not include students.
Well, not till we got a feel on what we have, and then if you have students that have an interest in certain things, then we could have a thing where like, you know, if you're doing like, say, based research on something and it's a topic we're working on, we can bring that student as a special guest. We could tell kids, you know, kids are always looking for volunteer work and college stuff that they may do a study for, so or plan something and the kids here are very well research based, so
Mhm.
Yes.
they'll, you know, but I don't know if you limit it to, I mean, what do you think? That's the one would be it. You think we're better off with
My
adults?
my initial thought is create your structure, identify your format, even like, are we using a Google form or are we
Yeah.
using Microsoft Teams? Like, those are like core logistical things that need to be worked out. I think the who is to a certain extent driven by the focus and the goal,
And the goal,
Mhm.
right?
driven by the
I
what.
would agree with that, yeah.
So I would say it's appropriate for students to participate in many, many, many situations.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't exclude them, but I wouldn't say everything has to
Yeah.
include,
Mhm.
because there, you know, I would say there's probably more oftentimes than not you want to hear a voice.
Yeah.
But we also have
Not
other,
the same voice.
we also have other areas other ways that we can get student feedback, and then bring that
Yeah,
information.
that's what I mean,
So-
bring a student that information in, so it's not always the same student on the board, it's.
Right, because we had, you know, there are
What's the
other
easiest
things we
form?
have in place, so.
What's the easiest format, Google Form?
Google Form generally, I mean, it has limitations and it get a little funky, but everyone,
You don't need to have a Google account.
no, you don't, and
Yeah, you
generally,
Set it up that they don't need one.
yeah, you could set it up and then, you know, then the average, the benefit of having that, you can prevent spam, but I don't think you're gonna have that issue with this.
Yeah.
Right.
Google tends to work because then you could do a lot with it after the
Okay.
fact, like if you guys wanted to sort it
Mhm.
and do some analysis.
Yeah.
But you could do anything, you know, generally, anything else that we would offer probably would be limiting us to district affiliated students or parents, so that's why Google tends to appeal.
Mhm.
And you could, and you could create however you want, and link it to information elsewhere.
I mean, you know, really, it's a very unique committee in that we are starting from scratch. And I think that, you know, it'll be a learning process. Dr. Lehman, I really liked, because I had sent those links, but I hadn't looked at the presentations. I'd be curious to know if that's like staff members that are giving the presentations or outside organizations that are coming in, or a combination.
So it looked like it was a little bit of a combination. Again, I only looked at one district and I'll qualify it as it was a county district with, like, you know, how Pennsylvania work
Yeah.
or, you know, Delaware and things. So they have the county board with school districts. So it almost looked like this community action committee was a representative from school districts in the county that was kind of uniting to give the county operations feedback from the district level, right? So a little different situation than what we have, but, you know, maybe that structure could have some level of modeling and things. But that would explain why they're looking at specific, like maybe the website, does it have a bias towards the larger districts and not necessarily the smaller, you know, like those are the kind of things they may be looking for.
Right.
And again, I don't know the purpose, so I didn't see the goals or anything in there, but, that happened to be just the 2 or 3 months worth of minutes that I looked at.
Definitely something to consider. I've got 12 minutes. I can keep talking unless, okay, we're all done. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Great. It is 8:18. We are going to adjourn the committee meeting. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.